If there's one health issue that touches virtually every human on Earth, it would have to be cancer. Here in Australia, cancer claims a life every 12 minutes. And every year around the planet, 14 million new cases are diagnosed, with an estimated 8.2 million people dying from the toughest of all fights. For most of us, when we talk about cancer, it's something that we're quite scared about. And unfortunately, most of us know someone who's been diagnosed with cancer. For me, it was my dad, twice. But what exactly is cancer and how close are we when we come to talking about the cure? Cancer is easily the world's single biggest killer. And with over $500 billion invested or donated in finding a cure, scientists have been fighting it for decades now. So where do we stand in the battle against cancer? Well, Professor David Currow of the Cancer Institute of New South Wales believes scientists aren't searching for one cure, they are searching for hundreds.
Cancer is an umbrella term for hundreds of diseases. The factor that's common to all of them is that cells are multiplying without the body being able to control that. When we make discoveries about one cancer, it has benefits for other cancers. How the cancer multiplies, how it spreads in the body, how the body fights it are all things that create a domino effect to benefit all cancers. There are cancers where we can now cure them, and we think of testicular cancer where the cure rates are greater than 98%.
Testicular cancer is treated successfully in 95% of all cases. If treated early, that number raises to 98%, where it used to be a death sentence. Once diagnosed, a man's risk of dying of it is now only 1 in 5,000.
Look, many diseases that used to be a death sentence no longer are, and for many types of cancer, that's the case. 30 years ago, 1 in 2 people diagnosed with cancer in our community would not be alive at 5 years. Now, we can say that 7 out of 10 will be alive at 5 years. That's a huge turnaround in a very short period of time. And with some of the new medications, the new treatments, we will see that accelerate in the years ahead.
Breast cancer in Australia has been a harder fight. There is no cure yet, but early diagnosis through screening and improved treatments mean we now have one of the highest survival rates in the world. And that is exactly what's happened to breast cancer survivor Bronwyn Wells.
When I was diagnosed, I felt absolutely devastated. My first thought was that I was going to die. The first reaction was complete devastation and fear. I looked a lot at complementary therapies in terms of how that might support my body while I was going through treatment and beyond it. So I had a very strict cancer-friendly diet, so lots of fibrous vegetables and that sort of thing, no alcohol. I meditated. I did all those good things. Whether that helped or not, I'm not entirely sure, but it certainly made me feel like I was doing everything I could to make sure that I was winning my battle against breast cancer. When I got to 10 years and I was clear, that's when I thought, yep, I've beaten this sucker, and I had a glass of champagne.
In 1982, someone's chance of surviving breast cancer 5 years or longer was 72%. It is now consistently 90%. The cure for cancer? It's a big, beautiful dream, isn't it? But with 200 varieties of the disease, if the dream is ever to become a reality, we will need to find 200 separate cures. This year in Australia, over 135,000 new cases of cancer will be diagnosed, and 50,000 people could die of cancer. You know what? We're always looking for that elusive cure when it comes to cancer, but here in Melbourne, could actually be closer than you think. Relatively speaking, bone cancer in Australia is rare, with around 200 people being diagnosed every year. It is one of the most difficult cancers to treat, but orthopaedic cancer surgeons like Peter Chong, Professor of Surgery at the University of Melbourne, believes that some groundbreaking new treatments are making a big difference to people's lives.
Only 25 odd years ago, the survival of primary bone cancers was sitting somewhere between 30 to 40%. But now we can enjoy 85% survival at 5 years. And that's a tremendous gain when you think of the spectrum of cancers.
The latest breakthrough being trialled is 3D printed bone implants.
3D printed devices and robotic surgery have helped cancer surgery by allowing surgeons to be really accurate. We are able to preserve much more bone, including joints, than we ever did before.
The truth is, despite the billions of dollars that have gone into research, a one-stop cure for all cancers may never be found. But new treatments are definitely saving lives. But that's not to say there aren't any happy endings out there. This is Brioni, mother of Oscar, wife to Peter, and while not everyone's cancer can be cured, hers actually was.
Brioni was diagnosed with cervical cancer over 4 years ago. Now, rather than increase her risk of infertility or early menopause, she decided to go down an alternative route.
Brioni was diagnosed with cervical cancer when she was 37. So after much heartache, she opted to ignore all her doctors and try something called PDT, photodynamic therapy. The only catch was, it was only available in China.
I would drink a concentrated chlorophyll-based solution, which would absorb into the cancer cells. And then the next day, I would have treatment, which was an infrared light treatment applied to the site. And the theory being that that reacts to the solution which has been absorbed, creates oxygen, which is detrimental to the cancer cells.
So the big question is, how do you feel now?
I feel fantastic. I'm coming up to 4 years clear of cancer, and right now I'm 23 weeks pregnant, and it's all going really well.